Good evening. Welcome everybody to the November 2nd, 2020 MSAD 6 Board of Directors meeting at Central Office. We will start tonight with a roll call and declaration of quorum. Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Julie Anderson.
Present.
Lindsay Atkinson. Julie Bruni. Here. Nathan Carlo.
Present.
Erica Kreutz.
Here.
Robert Deacon.
Here.
Ellen Dakotas.
Here.
Trevor Hustis.
Excused.
Donald Marian.
Here.
James Moses.
Excused.
John Sargent.
Here.
Elizabeth Forestieri.
She's here.
Okay. Ava DeRier. All right. I know that Shayla Harriman is here and sitting at the table. Okay. So, I'm sorry, so for minutes, Mr. Carlo, who is at the table tonight?
Ava is at the table, and Shayla is at the table, and Elizabeth is in the audience.
Thank you. Okay, so you do have a quorum with 9 votes present.
Thank you much. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll move to item 4, which is the acceptance of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay, we have a movement by Mr. Carlo and a second by Ms. Dakotas. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. All right. Item 5 on our agenda is public comment. We do not have anyone signed up for public comment tonight, so we will move to item 6, which is our student report.
So for our student report, for 11-12 Bonnie Eagle High School, most fall sports are now finished or are almost done. The fall sports season at Bonnie Eagle was a great success. Girls cross country competed in regionals 1 and is advancing to states in a couple weeks. Mock election ballots were counted by the AP government classes. Susan Collins won the Senate seat. Charlie Pingree won the District 1 congressional seat. And the very close presidential race went to Donald Trump. The new projectors were installed into AP teachers' classrooms in order to help them with online independent days. NHS is looking into getting volunteers to start an online tutoring program. Model UN held an online meeting for interested and returning members. Student Council organized a Spooky Spirit Week that both BE and Scott kids were able to participate in. Veen/Meme Day on Monday for BE and Wednesday for Scott students, and Spooky Colors Day on Tuesday for BE and Wednesday for Scots. For Bonnie Eagle Middle School, intramural sports finished, and it was great to see everyone enjoying themselves outside. Other clubs and activities are meeting. October 29th was Lauren Walker Day. Lauren is a student that is battling cancer. She and her sister have created and designed t-shirts and sweatshirts to raise money for the Children's Hospital. Staff purchased this clothing and wear it on the day to support her. Student pictures were taken, for Buxton Center, student pictures were taken the week of October 19th. It was great to see some of their remote students come in for their pictures. Many students communicated that they miss their friends and teachers. Staff meeting was held on Thursday, as well as meeting for parents to discuss upcoming thoughts and the direction for the upcoming months. The annual Buxton Center Elementary School PTO Trick or Read was held on Friday, October 30th. This year, due to the pandemic, this was a drive-through story walk. Families were invited to wear a costume and enjoy an animated spooky story walk from the comfort of their own car. Personal devices were used to scan QU codes to listen to the stories. A goodie bag was provided to take home, which included a new book. Buxton Center Elementary School Wellness Committee, along with Jen Cunningham, guidance, and Alicia Carroll, social worker, have provided a Zen room for staff who may need some quick downtime. The room is available where a staff member can sit and relax with a small treat and a bottle of water. The November activity calendar will be posted this week to start the fun monthly activities. After taking September and October off, staff and students wanted to bring this back to Buxton Center Elementary School. This week has been a fun week as students looked for creepy underwear around the building based on the book Creepy Pair of Underwear by Aaron Reynolds. For HB Emory Elementary School, they rolled out the Positivity Project for the whole school. This program empowers their students to build positive relationship and become their best selves. They also just wrapped up NEWA testing. Their students continue to do an amazing job following the new safety protocols due to COVID. For Steep Falls Elementary, they also rolled out the Positivity Project, and students at Steep Falls are also doing an amazing job following their new safety protocols. At Edna Libby is wrapping up their PTO fundraiser this week. The school also had Orange and Black Day and Crazy Hair Day this week, where BE and Scott students were both able to participate. At Hollis Elementary, students in Ms. Daniels' 4th, 5th grade class finished up the 3 branches of government unit by voting for class mayor, governor, and president. Students created a campaign, speech, and posters. They were then able to go through the voting process. Students in Ms. Brashaw's and Ms. Daniels' BE group joined Ms. Pinkham, math coach and garden coordinator, for a special tree planting work session at Hollis Elementary School, using 2 saplings from Retree Us in partnership with UNE. At Georgie Jack, students have completed NEWA testing and are wrapping up their DRA reading assessments this week. Students have also begun the Positivity Project. The first character strength students learned about was creativity, and this week's strength is perspective. Finally, students and staff really enjoyed Dress as a Book Character Day on Tuesday, October 27th for BE students, and Thursday, October 29th for Scott students.
Thank you very much. We will move on to an action item number 7 to accept the consent agenda, which is the approval of the October 19th, 2020 regular board meeting minutes, which was in your packet. We have a teacher appointment for the 2020-2021 school year of Kailani Anderson Andre at the elementary teacher for grade 3, 1 year only at the Buxton Center Elementary School. And a co-curricular appointment for the 2020-2021 school year for the Bonnie Eagle Middle School Pathfinders Program Director of Ethel Atkinson. Do I have a motion? So moved by Mr. Carlo. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Sargent. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Marine? Did you have something that you wanted to offer, Mr. Marine? Excellent. Then everyone approve? Thank you. It is unanimous. Next on the agenda is the report of the board chairperson, or tonight the board vice chairperson, as the case may be. We're reporting out on the 47th annual MSMA Virtual Fall Conference. So this was my first conference that I attended. It was interesting being a virtual experience. Some of it was a little complicated with the technology, but overall I would say that it was a success. I know I learned a lot from attending a number of sessions. And Mr. Deacon, could you report back on the resolutions, please?
Thank you. The Delegate Assembly established a world record of sorts with a 5-hour meeting, which was their longest in history. Partly there were some technical difficulties, some parliamentary issues, and some good healthy discussion about the 4 issues. But in summary, all 4 issues did pass. With respect to other comments regarding that, I can share the following. Just give me a moment. So with the first resolution dealt with learning and during the pandemic, and there was some concern about whether or not the state should be funding the remote learning through a separate budget item or not. And essentially it was determined that they wanted to make it clear that they did not want to have remote learning become a substitute for in-person learning. And so they did vote to endorse that there should be support for those learning activities, but they did not want to have it so that it was a line item measured similar to other line items for other budget items. Just give me one moment while I find my notes. Sorry, I wasn't quite prepared to present everything quite so early in the meeting. I
Moving
can,
this meeting right along, Bob.
could you let me come back to this?
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Mr. Kotis, I know you also attended. Is there anything that you wanted to offer?
Me?
No.
Oh,
No,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Kotis.
It's my turn, you can't, you can't take my turn. No, I attended several sessions. It was a little more difficult with some of the technology glitches, but I found them to be very informative. Even though I've been on the board a few years, I think these are courses that I think could be offered to anyone coming on the board, because they really were matters that we are involved in as soon as we, hit the ground running. And I wish I had, in some ways, known some of them beforehand. But I went to a variety of different ones. And one of the pieces, I like the way they described addressing the issue of the COVID experience. But even under the special ed seminar I went to, they talked about how important it was for us all to take precautions. And the way they worded it was that if we wear masks, we can keep the schools open. And I thought that was important, that we look at the big picture of what our responsibility is and what impact we would have, even though I know many of us, I also agree with people that I would like the schools to be open more for children, but again, they stressed our impact on the whole system. So, thank you.
I
Excellent.
did find my notes, if I may.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deacon.
Okay, thank you. For the first resolution, there were concerns that remote learning not become a line item in a district budget, as it was feared that this might become something that could be used to make remote learning permanent, as a permanent substitute for in-person learning, instead of just an adjunct or add-on activity. While the resolution covers all students, the Assembly declined to specifically include adult learners. Although there were more people in favor of that, including adult learners, it didn't pass because it needed a 2/3 requirement. The resolution did pass, asking that the MSMA to help develop a plan to address remote learning for the state as a whole and school districts, and there's no specific district duty, although we might try to influence what the MSMA or the Maine Department of Education or the legislators later implement. The second resolution regarding parent and community communication and involvement in schools also passed. School boards working with administrators should facilitate these discussions. I believe Superintendent Pennant has already anticipated this and has already begun work, which also coincides with our strategic plan discussions, which already has a number of parent and community discussions involved with that. So our district is well placed with respect to that. The third resolution regarding districts undertaking civil rights self-evaluations and discussions also passed. This had a lot of discussion. It was amended to include age and disadvantaged economic status, along with the other categories for race and sex and disability, for example. These activities are to be undertaken by districts as part of their regular administrative activities, just as evaluations were done in the 70s initially, and not expecting any particular additional funds to undertake. A section was added seeking the Maine Department of Ed to develop self-evaluation guides and materials to help in the process to ensure consistency in the scope and depth of the evaluations. The reasoning for these studies was amended to reflect some detailed ideas that should be addressed in the self-evaluations. Scarborough, for example, was one of the districts in particular that had laid out some very specific concerns that would ensure that there was depth and breadth and substance to the self-evaluations to ensure that they were really thorough and address the issues of our community and our nation that needed to be addressed for civil rights on a more contemporary basis. And so that information was added, instead of adding it to the body of the resolution itself, this was added to the motivation or the background, which was expressed detailing why this is important, why it's necessary to be done. And in a related note, I mentioned that one of the seminars that I had attended the next day on educational equity audits by Professor Flynn Ross from the University of Southern Maine included some things which we might want to include in our own self-evaluations, and some free resources that were pointed out as a part of that seminar, which I have since passed on to the board chair and the superintendent. So in end, this resolution did pass, and there is an expectation that districts do self-evaluations of their civil rights compliance, and it's hoped that the Maine Department of Education provide additional guidance to assist districts in doing that process. The last resolution dealt with experience that we had with conducting meetings by Zoom as opposed to in person. It was clarified in the meeting that what was behind that, one of the initial reasons for it was to allow boards to meet as we are meeting now together, but to allow the public to participate remotely for the safety of the public, but allow boards to operate. So meetings might be mixed in that sense, in person by board, remote by the public. But the discussion talked about facilitating and having consistent standards for allowing boards to have remote meetings as well, and the need for the State Department of Education and the legislature to adopt laws and standards with exactly how to go about that. So in essence, everyone was in favor of it, but there was a lot of discussion about exactly how to do it or what the concerns might be. There's no specific expectation for this board other than to follow up as we might want to ask our state representatives of the Maine Department of Education to adopt these standards in some way that we think is helpful to us. Separately from the delegate assembly, I wrote to the Maine School Management Association and the board chair and superintendent with a recommendation. As I have in the past, I have asked the Maine School Management Association to do a better job in making their materials, like handouts, available to members to take home and learn about. And the fact that all of the sessions here were pre-recorded and are still online and can be accessed after the fact for at least another week led me to think about it and conclude that something that would be very helpful, especially to new board members, is that each time a new board member gets to go to the annual fall conference, they usually come back saying, wow, they learned a lot, and they wish they had known a lot of the things that came up when they first came on the board, even 6 months prior, if that's the case. So my suggestion was that the Maine School Management Association, since they have these seminars on tape, and they have documentation for handouts and such that they've already collected, that they should assemble these in some fashion and make them available to school districts as a part of the orientation process for new school board members, because it really covers everything from A to Z that you would need to know. There's seminars on meeting the State Commissioner of Education, how to run school board meetings, budget issues, as well as all of the other contemporaneous topics like the civil rights issues that are going on now, or special education issues, changes in the law that come from Drummond and Woodson and their seminars that they would offer, school nutrition, and lots of other issues that are of just general purpose, good knowledge for all school board members to have. And I think it would be extremely helpful if in the future the Maine School Management Association had the prior year's conference seminars on tape available as a way to help jumpstart new school board members get into some of the depth of the issues that they are going to have to handle as a new school board member. So I did send that recommendation to the Maine School Board Management Association to do that. And I know that every year, even as a seasoned long-term federal employee who've been around education, I learned something. Even though I've been on the school board a number of years, I learn something every time, just as Ellen said, and Erica, that when you go to these conferences, you learn a lot. You meet people, you share ideas with others. That's very important. And I do think it would be extremely helpful for new school board members to have an opportunity to meet the commissioner and learn from other school board members about some of the things that they're confronted with, so that we can all do our jobs better. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Deacon, and thank you for your thoughtful representation and your endurance during that long delegate meeting. We appreciate that. And just to echo what Mr. Deacon said, like I said, this was my first conference, and I certainly learned a lot. This is my second year on the school board, but I picked up some great tips. So when it comes around next year, I would encourage everybody to participate. Mr. Pena, was there anything that you wanted to offer of your participation? All right, great. Any discussion about the MSMA conference? All right, and the only other thing that I'm going to offer tonight is just a quick update about the Strategic Ad Hoc Committee. The members of the Ad Hoc Committee met last week. We're continuing to make forward motion. We have another meeting on the books for next week. We think that we're coming close to having a streamlined process for us to be able to roll out our 2 at minimum and possibly our 5-year goals soon. We do expect that we're going to see it in a rolling fashion, but we're hoping to get through as many as possible, as quick as possible, so that we can put the rubber to the road and actually start tracking against those goals. So the work is going well, and if anyone has any questions, do feel free to reach out to me. That is the end of my report. Are there any questions for the chair? Excellent. Seeing none, we will move on to item 9, discussion item 9, which is the report from the superintendent of schools. So I yield the floor to Mr. Pena.
Thank you. Congratulations to Donna Jordan, the school nurse, the RN at Pond Eagle Middle School, for being named School Nurse of the Year by the Maine Association of School Nurses. Also, want to mention that Coach Cooper, football coach at the high school, was also named the National Federation of High School Coach of the Year, the Southern Maine Athletic Association Coach of the Year, and the Maine Coaches Association Coach of the Year. We want the truancy report and the staff hires are both in your packet. Donations, we want to thank Brooks Trap Mill for a donation of 2 lobster trap composites to benefit the Pond Eagle Middle School from composting program, a value of $200. So they built, so it's a composting program they have at the middle school. They've been running for a couple of years, and thank you for their $200 donation. Thank you to Hannaford Help School Program for a donation of $1,311 to benefit the students at Pond Eagle Middle School. Thank you to Christu Kaihaya of Leamington for a donation of 275 handmade children and adult face masks to benefit the students and the staff at both the H.B. Emery Junior Memorial School and the Edna Libby Elementary School, approximately $1,650 donation. Thank you to Jill Rackort for a donation of the non-perishable food items to benefit the backpack program at H.B. Emery, approximate value of $300 to $350. Thank you to Kate Sulanger for a donation of $25 to benefit the Hollis Elementary backpack program, and thank you to the following people for donating for district backpack program: Josh and Courtney Westcott, William and Rebecca Truck, Guilford Garden Club, Aaron Bouchard. Guilford Garden Club, actually a $475 donation. Aaron Bouchard of a $100 donation. Pam Davis, $20 donation. Brian Darlene Shaw, $25 donation. Carl and Amy Henshaw, $30 donation. And Jay Wymuth and A. Morris for $25 donation. We thank all those donations of the backpack program, which is incredibly helpful for the program to continue to maintain the success of that program. The other items of interest, community forums. We completed the community forum in Standish at the middle and high school last week, and Buxton. Tomorrow night will be in Leamington, and Wednesday night will be in Hollis to do the community forums. More discussions. Most of the discussions have been focused around Friday, moving Friday to Wednesday, and making it as we will be moving to a Friday in-person school day on hopefully starting December 7th is our plan currently, which is the second trimester. So there's been a lot of discussion about Friday moving to Wednesday, and with that would allow our students to have 3 days of consecutive in-person instruction on the alternating weeks. So we will continue that conversation next week, and we'll have a presentation for you on November 16th about our recommendation moving forward. We're still awaiting official approval, however, for our CRF2 funds. We have been given tentative approval on 7 of the 8 projects that they've tentatively approved, but they've sent us an email saying they're all approved except for project number 8. So the projects are as follows. Project number 1 was a culinary skills building program that we put in for the high school and possibly life skills to buy them equipment so that they could actually prepare food in a safe manner. And they don't currently have that equipment in order to do that. So right now, the only one preparing food is the instructor. This is going to help them so they can actually put the program in place. Project number 2 was purchase of iPads. Project number 3 was purchase of PPE. Project number 4 was a temporary classroom space, which gives us flexible systems that we could use to expand gyms for classroom space. Project number 5 was a wastewater testing system. Project number 6 was a needlepoint bipolar ionization system. Project number 7 is a school outreach program, an MSAD 6 CARES van, and staff stipends to support students and families who are distancing from schools. So trying to catch up with some of the students that seem to be getting more disconnected as our time goes on away from school. Project number 8 is a community partnership, which is to provide financial support for reimbursement for families accessing the rec programs during school hours. And that's the one that's holding us up at this point because they have to decide on how we're going to manage and control those funds. But the other ones have been approved, and we just have not received that formal announcement. So I don't know if you want me to pause there and ask if there are any questions about any of the CRF2 funds in the projects that we have out there that we're running. Yeah.
Mr. Deacon?
Yep.
Not so much as a question, but as a comment. I note that since you've been superintendent, our district has been, our staff, under your leadership and their own competence, have been selected for a number of prestigious awards. Teacher of the Year, Principal of the Year, Nurse of the Year, Coach. All of these things are taking place, and that's an indication of the quality of the staff that we have. And to get these nominations during a time of such controversy and difficulty for all school districts is even more worthy of note. And so I appreciate that all of our staff, all of our employees are working exceptionally hard, and I want to thank these people in particular for their effort to do their best in their work, considering the circumstances. And I'm very thankful that we have a school district that has so many employees that do their best all of the time to create the best education program possible for our children. And I think we're very blessed by that. Thank you.
Yep, Ms. Bruni?
So I don't have a question around the funds, Paul. My question is more around the changing from Friday to Monday, right? So instead of having everybody remote on Friday, it would be everybody would be remote on Wednesday.
No, nobody's going to be remote. Our proposal is going to be, as we're working through, is that by second trimester, we'll be adding Friday into an in-person instruction day and removing remote instruction. That's good, that's what we've been talking about, working with, we work through the schools and the association to let them know that we're looking at a more in-person day, so it just keeps the rotation moving.
Okay, and that makes sense, because when you said the three consecutive in-person, that's why I was confused, because I was like,
Yeah, right,
is it in-person?
By
or they
making
have-
Wednesday, Friday, but I know, it's confusing, because with Friday currently is a remote day, we're gonna eliminate the remote day, either way, even if we left Friday where it is, it just means PE kids would have to go Monday, Tuesday, and then Friday, 1 week, as opposed to move it Wednesday, they would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday 1 week, and then the following group would go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the next week, so it makes continuity for the students.
Okay,
But
that makes sense,
there's
then when you
still
talk about
some
the
work
three
we
every
need to
other.
do on that, we need to make sure that families can then make the adjustments to daycare, accordingly. So it's not a done deal, but that's been a strong suggestion all the way through our teacher surveys as well as the parent meetings, about a continuity issue that could help put students in front of teachers more consistently.
So doing away with a remote learning day?
Yes, we're
Okay,
doing away with the remote learning day and have an in-person day.
okay, thank you.
Just a point of clarification on the parent forums, although the next ones are in Hollis and
Leamington tomorrow, Hollis Wednesday.
anyone can attend, any parent can
Correct.
attend any session, and there is virtual, if you want to dial in
Yes.
virtually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Ms. Atkinson?
Thank you. I had a question about the forums that we've had, the 2 already and the 2 upcoming. Will we be able to see some of the transcripts or get a general consensus of what the parental feedback was from all of those?
Mhm.
When-
Well, yeah, we have that. I think when we do our report on the 16th, that we'll just say, here's the trend of the information that we got from family
Okay.
feedback.
Yeah.
Like,
I've
that's,
got-
that's what our report will be, a result of, this is what they're saying. We'll show you examples of percentage of people who are saying this, or the
Okay.
type of comments we're getting from people that reflect what we're gonna bring forward,
Okay.
right? It's a community sense of, this is what we want, and here's the, so I want the board to know, like, we're not just coming in with some plan, and you guys are gonna be out there trying to decide it, like, you're gonna have a plan that you see the teachers are supportive of, and the community is supportive of where they want us to go, and the documentation is show that this is what we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
And
Did you have
two-
anything
and-
else?
No, yeah, 2 more items, yeah. So I just wanted you to know the champion team, that, the team I talked about, we assembled early on, it has representation. It's the team that we put together to work to help the staff development issues all around the staff and preparing them for, just student issues and things that we have to face, given the sense of what's been, since COVID's been with us, and since we've had the separation of students from school. We put together some PD for our staff to be prepared for when students come in, to make sure they're prepared to help and support our students, and keep things moving. That team has developed wonderfully. There's representation in every single school, and so that's gone well. So what we're gonna start doing is, and we're gonna start meeting monthly by district. So I'll meet with the team monthly, but they've all developed their teams internally, with the administration at every building. So now they're gonna go into just working at building base and working on specific PD that each building needs. So what they need at the middle school might be very different than what they need at Buxton Center. And we wanted them to have the flexibility to work with administration to decide, what do you need to do to support your staff, so that we're giving them as much support as possible moving forward, and just helping us to make sure that we're taking care of our staff as well as taking care of our students, an important part of, as we go through these different times that we're living in right now. So I just wanted you to know that, it's just progressing, it's been a really good committee and it's representative, so I just wanted you to know that piece. And the last piece that I'll report out on is the immunization that we heard. Obviously, everyone heard about what happened in Sanford, which prompted us to get a committee which prompted me to get a committee together of our nurses to develop a protocol, to say that what is our process gonna be moving forward if we're gonna have anybody in our building, regardless of it's immunization or anything. What is our protocol that we have on saying what the nurse's role is gonna be in making sure that we don't have any incidents or anything that causes concern from us while they're in our buildings. So we've developed a protocol, or we're developing it. It's gonna be finalized this week. I'm meeting with the nurses to go through what has to be and make sure those steps are in there closely, to make sure that they are intricately involved with anybody that's in our building. Because what I did learn in this conversation between protocols is a couple of things that shouldn't have happened did happen in our schools, and so we want to avoid any of those things happening in the future. And so, again, we're developing a protocol so we can avoid any type of major misunderstandings or confusion. So, and that's the end of my report.
Right, great, thank you. Any additional discussion? Ms. Atkinson?
Yeah, I'd just like to simply add the easiest protocol for avoiding these issues is to not be dispensing immunizations on school grounds, and I'd urge the rest of the board to consider that next year when we vote for this again, that a medical procedure should be done between a nurse and a patient or a doctor in a medical setting, and that's the easiest way to avoid these issues not happening in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Yes, Ms. Bruni?
So I just wanted to ask, Paul, I don't know if your plan is, so I know that it's every other meeting, you'll come to the board with kind of progress on what's happening.
You
When
mean with the
With
academic
going forward,
programming?
correct,
Yes,
right, like
okay.
at the second meeting of
Yeah.
every month, you're gonna
Yes,
talk
yes,
about your
yes.
forums and whatnot. And so, one of the questions that I have, or a request if it's not, is, at the last meeting, you had talked about the survey that you had done and some of the changes that had come out of, like, some of the requests that had come
Mm-hmm.
out of that, so whether it's around the eating in the schools, and so, my ask is if you're not already, if you could give us updates on some of the great things that have come out of, the things that we've done. Obviously, you're gonna give us a report of what we're doing going forward, right? So if there were issues that you were able to, or challenges, I guess, that you were able to identify some of the changes or the fixes that you have made, right? So I know that there was a concern around like the voc kids, right? Like being able to eat or whatever. So if you could just like maybe talk a little bit about that during those meetings on what we've done, right? Like, cause I want us to focus on what we're doing well, not what might not be happening the way that we want it to be
Right.
happening, right? But what are some of the things that we're doing well? So if you could just be sure to include that in your meetings of any kind of things that came out of it and what the action items were, that would be great.
Yeah, no, I think that, and the other thing, I'm glad you brought it up, because I think that, a couple things that have come up from the families, which I kind of put us in the position by saying, in this summer, when we're making plans, all the other superintendents will say, I'm making a plan right through till Christmas or Thanksgiving. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, because I have no idea where we're going to be. But now we kind of do know where we're going to be, at least for a little bit. And I think what I'm hearing from families, it's a little hard to have the uncertainty as what might happen next month or this month. And although we feel like we see it moving, it's not that easy for families to see it moving. So I think what we're going to propose next month, again, the board will have a discussion action item on it, right? Would be the idea that should we say that unless something changes drastically with COVID, our plan will be from second trimester to the end of second trimester, and we won't have to revisit it unless something changes again until, March or April, at least later into the spring when we head before third trimester. And I think that gives everyone more certainty as to where we are, and it helps families to make those plans that they need to make. I think we're hearing that pretty clearly from people. They appreciated where we are now, but to your point, at some point, we gotta have some stability and know this is where we are for the future. So I think that kind of has run its course. So, but we will talk about we have learned some really interesting things about what's going well with some things about, where we are. We've learned a lot. None of this is as good as having all our kids in school. End of story. I mean, it's just not. But we've made a lot of accommodations and adjustments that have made us get through to the best we can, but it's not where we'd like to be.
Right, and I just want to make sure that we're highlighting that, the surveys are not for naught, right? Like,
Right.
it's not like, hey, we're doing the surveys and we're not bringing the kids back to school, as some people want. There's other great things that are coming out of those surveys, of improvements that you can make that are in the best interest of the children, and that are not, still keeping them safe. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we do get those updates.
Yeah,
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for the superintendent?
thank you.
All right, seeing none, we will move on to action item number 10 on the agenda, the approval of a resolution to authorize the lease purchase of one new 2022 propane Bluebird Vision Type C school bus in the principal amount of $106,926.75. Mr. Brockman, would you like to tell us more?
This is the one bus that we received state approval for this year. In order for us to have qualified for 4 buses that will be paid for under the CARES Act funds, we need to make sure that we utilize this money that the state is willing to give us in order for us to be qualified for the other funds. So it's an important purchase. The interest rate on the lease purchase is 1.7%, which is a very good rate. The bus should be delivered before the end of the year.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Brockman? Mr. Deacon?
I'll just point out, make sure the public understands that our bus fleet runs more miles than any school district in Maine. We're above average in that sense because of the geography that we have. But our transportation department is second to none, and our business office is second to none in helping us maintain and get buses that are economical to run, and buses that where we can get funds from the state or other sources to help pay for the buses to reduce our costs. And I appreciate all that Mr. Brockman and his staff and the transportation staff have done in order to make this happen. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions
you.
or comments? Right. Do we have a motion on the floor? Mr. Sargent? And Ms. Bruni, were you seconding? Excellent. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is discussion around the Policy Committee report of October 19th, 2020. I hand it over to Mr. Carlo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Policy Committee convened at Central Office on October 19th, 2020. We talked about a variety of policies, beginning with policy DFF, the Student Activities Fund. We adopted the MSMA sample version. We adopted we repealed the form DFF E1, the Principal's Letter of Understanding, stated that this letter of understanding has never been implemented before, so that we were requesting that this policy form be removed. We clarified the language about the mentor position for student representatives. Currently, the way the policy was written before was that the committee reps did not have an assigned alternate. This is not consistent with the practice. Usually the board appointed student rep mentor is the mentor to the policy or the other committee reps too. That was the practice, but that was not what was in the policy, so we changed that to reflect current practice. And we reviewed the grants policy. This came up in consequence of a 5-year review process that we do. We amended the policy to add possibility to approve grants not exceeding $1,000 so that administrators could approve those grants without having it to go to the board each occasion. And we approved the GIH student search checklist. I think this is one of those forms that also hasn't really been used that much. There's a process by which administrators record student searches in not Infinite Campus, what's the new one? Synergy. So we took that up. That was brought back to our committee meeting earlier today, and I'll report about that at the next board meeting. There was questions raised about how we record student searches, so we'll clarify that at our next meeting when it comes to the board. There are concerns about how committee meeting calendars are posted to the public, and I think that issue has been addressed. So I will yield the floor back to the chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Carlo? Excellent. Moving on to item 12, we have policies for first reading, policy code BBBAA, policy code DD, and policy code DFF. Anything you would like to add for those, Mr. Carlo?
None of those policies have been amended again by the committee. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to item 13, discussion item for the Negotiations Committee report of October 26, 2020, and I will yield the floor to Ms. Bruni.
Okay. Sorry, I just scrolled up to read a policy, so I've got to go back down here to So we met, as the negotiations committee. We had, an employee that asked to, partake in an employee exit interview. So, as you may know, they do have the option to go to the negotiations committee, when they fill out their exit interview. And so this person did recommend or asked to come in front of the board or the negotiations committee. So we were able to listen to suggestions and recommendations that she wanted to present to us for ways for improvement for the future. We also had an executive session to talk about a side letter, which we're going to talk about in a while, with the teachers, the SBTA. And then we also had an executive session to talk about the LPN bargaining unit. And then we also were able to finalize, so that it could go to the policy committee, the revisions of policy code GCQCBE, which is the exit interview form.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Bruni and the negotiations committee? All right, seeing none, we have action item 14 for executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D to review a side letter between the MSAD 6 Board of Directors and the Saco Valley Teachers Association, SVTA, to address the addition of a COVID leave plan for the 2020-2021 school year. And do I have a motion? Mr. Sargent, do I have a second? Ms. Dakotas, any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. We will now go into executive session.
Just give me a couple days, I'll be back.